Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 813 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Do, 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 do. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say, oh, Canada. I'd forgotten that I had changed it, so it didn't sound like I was singing "Here Comes the Bride." Do 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 do. Yeah, I guess it is kind of the same in a way. ah, I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and not with me as usual is my good friend Mr. Grizzly. Today, recording day is Wednesday, December 17th, 2025, and it looks like it's a nice day at the Beaver Lodge here. Still gray, but no snow falling this morning. We've had a decent amount over the past few days. Again, not that I'm complaining, but it's nice to have a day without it as well. A little bit interspersed in between all of that snow falling. A little windy though. I can tell there's through when I'm looking here. You guys can't see it, but there is a window, which is why sometimes in the summer you see these weird effects, light effects on my face. But I look into the laneway of my neighbor, and there is a tarp on something, and it is flying and flapping really vigorously. So it is a windy day here at the Beaver Lodge. All right, let's see. I don't know if I did the date today yet already. I'm kind of doing the intro all in a different order. But today, recording day is Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. And I think I did say that now that I remember. Now that I've said it, I recall myself having said it before, but I didn't before I said it. I don't know why. That's kind of weird. But it happens sometimes. Anyway, kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? Mine is doing okay. A little tired, but as I told you last night, yesterday, sorry, not last night. Oh my God, I'm really tired. Uh, my brain's not turned on yet this morning. As I told you yesterday morning during our show, that I probably would be a little late today because last night was going to be a late night, given that our curling match was at 9. Eager Beaver curling report. Doot, 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 doot. We came back victorious. Yeah. I played really well last night, I have to say. So that really helped the team. But yeah, we picked up a victory. Yay, us. Pat myself on the back. Only the third time that our entire team has played together this year because there's always been somebody absent somewhere. So when we're playing together, we're 2-1. And when we're not playing together, we're 0-7. So second victory of the year, or 0-8, actually, I should say. But hey, we're having fun. And that's the most important part. But yeah, so and then the night before, as I mentioned, was our Christmas party. So it's been 2 late nights in a row where I'm getting to bed past 1. So surprised that the bags aren't a little bigger. under my eyes this morning, and feeling relatively energetic, as I can say, happily. Ask me again around 1 p.m. when I really start to crash, though. But I am feeling good, and I hope that you are too, kits and cubs. Getting a little busy. I'm starting to feel a little bit of the Christmas season. Uh, I didn't have time for it really with the show and then trying to catch up with things after the show, but now it's been a couple of weeks and I'm pretty much caught up and have a little bit of time to breathe. If it wasn't for the fact that my beaver sweetie is facing end of term and the end of his time in the science lab, at least for the next little while, and has to finish off a lot of research in a couple of days. It would be calm here, and I would have time to be thinking about even more Christmas, like I actually, drawing up a list of gifts I would want to get people. I haven't even had time to think about that or think about things that I would like to cook. Also, haven't had time to think about that because I love cooking and I love Christmas and I love cooking for Christmas and making goodies and treats. But yeah, I haven't had time to think of any of that or to indulge in any of that yet. Hopefully, that will come soon because I'm eager to get into the spirit of the season. It makes me happy. So there you go. Uh, let's see. Oh, don't think we thanked our sponsors this morning. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. A little later start than even I had expected this morning because for some reason I was in the studio and certain things wouldn't connect on all platforms. Yesterday it wouldn't connect with YouTube. Today it connected fine with YouTube. It wouldn't connect with other places. We program the show on our socials to let people know that it is going to be starting at a certain time, and then the things don't connect, and then we have to go back and either provide a new link or whatnot and redo all the programming. So we had to do that, and then you want to leave time for people to actually see it and find you before you start. So that kind of happened. And then when I got into the studio, I could not get the chat to come up at all. So I couldn't see what the damn fam was saying. And looking all around and trying to figure it out. And then until I decide, well, heck, let's start the show anyway, and we'll see if it connects. And as I'm going to press the button to start the show, I notice that our opening credits and everything are not loaded. And then I look into the top left-hand corner and noticed that our platform brought me in to the entirely wrong studio. So no wonder I couldn't chat with the damn fam prior to the show. I wasn't in the correct studio. The right software, the wrong studio. For some reason, it just teleported me someplace I did not belong. So, fortunately, that was an easy fix, but it took me forever to spot that that was the issue. So, there you go. Um, innocent, but with an explanation, as Luba would sing. All right, kids and cubs, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the federal government having announced new oil and gas methane uh, targets, I guess, or plans or policy, which is kind of interesting because this is really, from what I can tell, the first truly solely green announcement that the government has done. And as you know, if you have been paying attention to the media a little bit lately, particularly, I think, an interview that Mark Carney had with someone from The Economist, I believe it was, when he was in London for the World Cup of Rugby and also other things. Uh, Actually, he was in town for other things and also decided to stop at the Women's World Cup of Rugby to cheer on Team Canada, who was playing for gold. Uh, and while he was there, the interviewer had sort of challenged him on environment. And I believe Christian Amanpour had also as well, and sort of asking, like, what happened to you? Because he's been rolling things back. And most of the time that he's been in office, he's been rolling things back. Now, the Prime Minister says that he wants to shift our environmental policy, particularly with regard to carbon reduction and addressing climate change, to an interdiction based system, to an incentive based system. And we have been noticing, and also in terms of an overall climate competitiveness strategy, that I keep on hearing people say we've introduced. But as I mentioned yesterday, I failed to remember an actual press conference where they sat down and said, here's our climate competitiveness strategy, and explained it to us in detail. We just keep on being told that it exists and pointed to things that are environmental or environmental-ish in other announcements, from what I can tell. Now, I don't know if it's happened. It may have happened, and I may have missed it, uh, but I don't recall it, and I haven't heard any buzz about it if it happened. Um, so we've been picking up along the way, trying to cobble together what this climate competitiveness strategy is, and from what we can tell, there are labors. Oh my God, I'm having so much trouble today. There are layers, not labors, layers of climate focused action embedded in a lot of projects. When we were looking at the major projects office, right, one of the copper projects, I think there's two copper projects. They are supposed to be zero emission based, or one of them is. The LNG project that has been tapped is supposed to be the lowest emitting LNG project in the world, or the second lowest, or something like that. Um, we're looking at, in the long term, a wind project off the coast of Nova Scotia. We're looking at nuclear, which would reduce carbon. We are looking at um, new processes and new ways of doing things that are less intensive. We are looking at the Pathways project to try and get some carbon capture and storage on a serious scale uh, into the oil sands. We are we see these types of things, right? We are making um, uh, it's like we've adopted a position that, listen, we are a resource based country, and we are going to be doing a lot of that in the upcoming future. So since we are still going to be mining and extracting oil and gas and all this other stuff that we do, cutting down trees, and for the foreseeable future, let's uh, find ways to do it that are way less carbon intensive than the way we've always been doing it. And once those old ways of doing things come offline and the new ways of doing things uh, come online, well, then we'll still be able to do mining and energy and other resource extraction, but on a much more positive carbon basis, um, which does indeed reduce our emissions over time, over a long time. It's not, there's no particularly immediate hard hit, um, but you can see, if you put these pieces together, that that's the case. The climate competitiveness also has to do with our reorienting our trade and diversifying our partners, because, for example, if we are going to be doing more trade with Europe, they are going to have their common adjustment border mechanism for all things carbon, to make sure that the products that they buy and sell, and the products that they import, especially the products that they import into Europe, meet European climate standards in order to do trade. So we have to make some adjustments that way as well, in order to remain competitive with the countries that are at least going to keep on going down the climate path, even though the United States might be abandoning it. We know China probably is not, and therefore, if we want to be in the mix in that economy of the future, these are things that we do have to take care of at home, and we have to put these things in place as soon as possible. We should have done this a long time ago, but we need to get to it. So yesterday, the federal government, from what I can tell, as I mentioned, made its first full green announcement, and it had to do with methane emissions from the oil and gas sector. Not only from the oil and gas sector, but this apparently, it seems, is new to us as a nation in terms of policy, but also from landfills. which do account for a significant portion of methane emissions. Of course, as you may know, emissions from methane are have a much more immediate uh, impact on climate change than, or much more intense impact on climate change than do CO2 emissions. So we want to um, focusing on methane first is a good way to achieve maximum impact for minimum activity or minimum dollars in terms of reducing GHG emissions. So it is an important uh, move, but it's it doesn't absolve us from having to do what we need to do on all the other fronts as well. So I have a little bit of an announcement here uh, by Julie DeBrusen, who is our Environment and Climate Change Minister. She made the announcements yesterday. There was from the, I guess, overall community that were there as well to help with the announcement. Um, I'm sorry, my voice is a little scratchy at the moment, but I will take care of that when the video starts. Um, so there were other people from the community that were there. But she was in Burnaby, British Columbia yesterday to announce the enhanced regulations to reduce methane pollution from the oil and gas sector. And the new regulations will be phased in as of January 1st, 2028. She was joined by Jennifer Figner, who's the Provost and Vice President Academic at the British Columbia Institute of Technology, and Jacqueline Peterson, who's the Chief of External Affairs for Cathyros Solutions. Um, we're going to go to the announcement. Some of the basic stuff, of course, that happens with with every one of these announcements. Uh, you know, so we'll go into that, and we'll look at least. There's a bit of a Q&A after. I didn't get all the way through it, but um, when I was doing the research because I just had to go to bed last night at some point. But at least the first in the Q&A, and if I'm able, while it is playing, to get further ahead in the Q&A session on my own to bring you more that is relevant, I will. But at least the first question, given that it is often when they have these types of press conferences and they open it up to Q&A, sometimes the first question goes to something that has nothing to do with the subject because there's something else going on in the world that's grabbing lots of headlines and attention. But in this case, the first question was on it. So here we have Environment Minister Julie DeBrusen making the announcement about the oil and gas methane reduction regulations that, again, will be coming into effect as of January 1st, 2028.
This fall, we introduced the Climate Competitiveness Strategy, and that brought forward measures to drive down emissions and build a strong economy. The Climate Competitiveness Strategy includes measures like strengthening industrial carbon pricing, a $90 billion set of money going towards investment tax credits to drive clean growth, support for clean critical minerals projects, mobilizing capital for the transition to net zero, and positioning our industry in our country to compete and to win. Importantly, it also included a commitment to move forward on enhanced methane regulations. So today, I'm pleased to be following through on that very commitment just a few short weeks later. I'm proud to announce the final enhanced oil and gas methane regulations and landfill methane regulations. These two measures will drive down emissions from two of the largest sources of methane in Canada. This announcement is about building the strong economy of the future, one is cleaner, more competitive, and more resilient. Methane is one of the most potent, dangerous drivers of climate change, but it's also one of the fastest and most cost-effective opportunities to cut emissions while creating jobs and growing our economy. And frankly, I can't think of a better place to be making an announcement like this than being here at BCIT, where we're here with people who are actually showing the skills and know-how and innovation to do this kind of work. By tightening methane rules, we are driving innovation, supporting Canadian companies that develop leak detection, monitoring, and clean tech solutions that are in demand around the world. Clear, predictable regulations give industry certainty, attract investment, and ensure Canadian energy remains competitive in a world that is moving towards lower carbon production. This is real climate action that works for workers, communities, and Canada's long-term economic prosperity. These new enhanced oil and gas regulations are designed to significantly cut methane emissions by over 304 megatons from 2028 to 2040, while giving operators flexibility in how they comply.
All right, kids and cubs. So the overall large outline of the project, along with making the business case for it in terms of these new rules offering predictability, which the industry really likes. Industry just wants us to tell them what the rules are going to be so that they can make their plans for the next 5 to 10 years, and like don't come in and pull the rug out from under them or just magically change the rules again. Make the rules, make them tough if you need to, but just tell us what the rules of the game are and let us function. All right. So making the case for that, again, I think she said 304,000 tons, if I am remembering correctly, of methane being avoiding putting that much into the atmosphere, which is probably not a bad thing, I would assume. All right. She speaks a little bit in French for a little bit here, but essentially repeats some of the things that she has already said. So we will fast forward to the next section here of her announcement and bring that to you, where she goes a little bit more into detail after broad strokes.
It also encourages the use and development of advanced methane detection technologies, areas where Canadian companies are already global leaders. In fact, just yesterday, I saw at the University of Calgary a robot that was developed to detect methane leaks, and that has wonderful domestic and export opportunities for it. That's why today we're also investing nearly $16 million through Natural Resources Canada Energy Innovation Program to support 9 methane detection and measurement projects across Canada. These projects bring together Canadian universities, federal laboratories, clean tech companies, and industry to demonstrate global leadership in detecting, measuring, and reducing methane emissions. They will strengthen how methane is identified and quantified, lower compliance costs for industry, and help operators meet enhanced methane regulations more efficiently. Most importantly, they will keep Canada at the forefront of global methane innovation, driving solutions that can be deployed at home and exported abroad. We know that strong collaboration with provinces is essential to delivering this work and ensuring its success. To fight climate change and grow our economy, we must do it together. We have a strong track record through equivalency agreements in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, and we look forward to building on that collaboration, including with Alberta under our recent Memorandum of Understanding. Our goal is clear: fighting climate change in a way that is unifying and credible and that builds a strong and clean economy for the future. Now, I'd like to talk for a moment about landfills.
All right. So we'll get into the landfill section because she says I would like to talk about landfills, and then goes and talks about them in French. So we'll have more on that because we'll be bringing you more content than what the minister is saying here on the show. So don't worry about that. But the landfills is a new element of this because it would seem that former policy didn't even attempt to tackle this, and landfills are indeed a significant source of methane emissions. So in here, we talk about the federal government investing a certain number of millions. I believe it is 16 million. She had mentioned into various detection measures of methane using robots and various high tech sources. Um, to in order to spot emissions, to spot leaks, and therefore they can be addressed as well. So that's a positive development in there. The overall package seems to be a bit stronger than what we used to have on those fronts. But as you're going to hear, um, and I believe as you have heard already, if I'm not mistaken, that they are offering two tracks. Seems to be, again, as this seems to be typical with these types of things, one that is voluntary so long as that you meet certain standards, and then there being some type of backstop in place in case you do not. But so again, maybe a little less prescriptive than past policy. Although I have to say, in past policy, for example, when we had consumer carbon pricing, uh, the way that the prime minister and the government designed it at the time was to give the provinces and the territories the first option of coming up with their own plans, so long as it met certain standards, and the provinces that refused to do so were then subject to the backstop. Um, this type of approach um, it seems to be preferred, but it will be interesting to see if industry will be more willing to be more proactive in deciding for itself what it wants to do and how it wants to do it, rather than obstructing or dragging heels so that the federal government has to turn around and said, okay, well, you guys wouldn't do it on your own, so here's what you must do, in much more prescriptive detail. I know that corporations and some national governments would prefer having flexibility when meeting these targets, which is fine. um, but if flexibility becomes synonym for give us a pretext or a loophole to get out of it or not do it, um, or let's use it as a delay tactic. Oh, yes, 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 voluntarily. We will do it voluntarily. Oh, we just never got around to it. So it does need some teeth, but that type of structure can work. And again, given that industry for some time now has been clamoring for some stability and predictability so that it can know what it has to do with its long term investment plans on this. And hopefully, that nobody again will pull the rug out from under them 7 years into it or 5 years into it once they've invested all the money in terms of making a change. Um, make a rule, make it good, make it strong if you need to, but make it and stick with it. You know? So in that um, sense here, um, perhaps corporations would be more willing to be more proactive than some national governments uh, because uh, the long term incentive embedded within the structure makes it worth it for them to make that change, would be my the best way that I can kind of uh, put it together to say it here on the show. Um, so these do seem like solid moves, but the move to open the door to corporations to have that extra flexibility to choose the track that they want is meeting with some criticism or some skepticism or some doubt. It does leave the door open to that because we haven't heard yet about. Um, what type of verification there would be and what type of enforcement there would be here on this, at least at this moment in the announcement. And even if it was mentioned at this point in the announcement, for the people who are making the invalid announcement, the point of it is to really highlight the fact that there's action and that there's stuff that's happening. This methane and oil and gas methane stuff is linked to the MOU because the Prime Minister first got the agreement of Danielle Smith with regards to the pathways and the pipeline project with regard to methane, oil and gas methane reduction targets, and then put them into this document and then advertised them and is announcing them now. So there was two steps here with that as well. So making sure that what is in the statement today and what is in the MOU are not contradicting each other or working at cross purposes. So that's why one was finalized before the other, and we're getting these announcements. But we had a hint that there was something regarding methane that would be coming relatively soon based on what was in that MOU, and this is what it is here. All right. Minister De Brusen then continues on to finish her announcement with the sort of typical inspiring, sort of feel good, wrap it up, bring it home sort of messages that usually follow this type of thing. The other people that are present are invited to speak afterwards, and they do and contribute what it is that they were invited to do. And we get then to the question and answer period with the minister. And so let's take a look at the first question that she got and her answer. Pause there. That's at the source.
Hi there. Thank you so much for today's announcement. My name is Alison Gakad. I'm a reporter at Carbon Pulse. This question is for Minister De Brusen. So the new regulations are expected to fall just short of prior targets in 2030. The target, what is that, 75%, and the emissions reductions are expected at 72%. Can you elaborate on this decision in terms of what were the trade-offs that were made in that regard?
So to be clear, and thank you for that question, because I think it's important as a way of clarification. The goal and the objective for Canada is still to reduce methane emissions by 75% by 2030. It's just sorry, I'm going between French and English now. Les règlements. The regulations are not the only tool. So to be able to actually capture the remaining percentages in there, that's going to be about technology and other investments. The regulations do the lion's share of getting us there, but they're not the only tool we're going to have in our toolbox.
Okay, so to clarify, you're expecting that there will be other mechanisms in place to meet that final, at minimum, 3%.
Yeah, and in fact, if you also look, by the way, already with our clean investment tax credits, there are investment tax credits that we already have going towards clean technologies and all of those pieces as well. So there are going to be other measures that are going to have to go towards it, but I just wanted to be clear that the 75% is still the goal for Canada by 2030. It's just not all through the regulation.
Great, thank you so much.
All right. So we're learning a couple of things there with that answer. First of all, that with this new plan, the thing that's going on is that because we've been taking certain things offline, like, for example, the Canada Greener Homes project hasn't funding for that hasn't been renewed. There hasn't been funding renewed yet for electric vehicle purchases. We have rolled back consumer climate pricing. We are looking at rolling back emissions caps and clean energy regulations and all that kind of stuff. When you do all of that, of course, the progress that was assumed that these things would bring, and how much closer it would get us to our goals, that gets removed from the equation, and nothing has really yet been announced, or at least until this, as to how we would reduce or compensate for that. So these methane emission reductions will definitely help. Now, of course, the project comes online in 2028, which only gives us 2 years to get to 2030, and clearly that's not. We won't be at the full impact of this program by then. Um, but Minister de Bruzen makes it clear that the federal government intends to introduce other measures that won't just be these one or two things alone, that will go and will be um, accretive, accumulative in terms of meeting our goals. And in there, in her answer, she also mentions that there were specific tax credits that were created for specifically this purpose that have not gotten a lot of announcement and fanfare and attention, even when the budget was announced. So I might have to go back and look um, to try and find out what type of tax credits have indeed been on offer. But it seems that there are some. And again, it's in one way, it surprises me that he is not bringing a lot of attention to this, but in another way, it is not, because I do remember saying on the show in the past that even though Mark Carney is the type of person that has established a solid reputation on being green, or concerned at least with matters related to the environment and how it coincides with the world of business. Um, that it might not be a good idea to talk about these things very loudly and to tout them very loudly, considering the current political mood that we're in, just to quietly go about doing the thing, embedding it in things. And then people turn around and say, oh my God, look, we did something good for the environment. Yeah, amazing, right? It's sort of almost like, slipping some spinach in the lasagna, or slipping some broccoli by, uh, creaming it, mashing it into a soup, or slipping in veggies by putting it on a pizza or something, right? Or making the kids eat broccoli because you smothered it in cheese, for example. So there is that type of thing going on, trying to embed things and maybe not bring a lot of attention to them, given that the public mood is more concerned with the threat, uh, the immediacy of now, the urgency of now, the threat on the doorstep. And if people are wondering, will I have a job? Will I be able to eat? Will I be able to make rent? Yes, they would certainly love us to tackle climate change, but it's probably not their top of mind or first priority. Right? Yes, I would like to help fight against climate change, but does that mean I eat less? Because I really am not down with eating less at the moment. Right? You've got these two conflicts: the short-term emergency, urgent, pressing needs that need to be fulfilled now or tomorrow, but very quickly, and then problems that are, you can psychologically trick yourself and say, we can deal with that later. There's time, but we know that there isn't. Right. So it might be a lot about the prime minister and the government slowly and quietly doing the thing without trying to draw too much attention to it, to draw the ire of the conservatives and give them a plank. So that could be going on too. So yeah, the announcement of those tax credits for me were something that was more surprising for me to hear, because I would have assumed naturally that they would have been more touted and more promoted. Again, until I remembered that it might be more strategic to just do it quietly. Because every time we've tried to do it and make a big show of it, the conservatives have popped right around the corner to try and find a way to dismantle it or destroy it, or um, decimate the public's faith in it. So why would we give them another opportunity by patting ourselves on the back and spiking the football? Just do the thing, and then when the numbers show up a couple of years later, it says, "Oh my God, while doing that, we reduced the methane emissions by this much. Wow, when did that happen? Oh, I was doing it all along. I just decided not to tell you about it." Right? Ah, well, not to tell you about it because he has to tell about it, but I decided to say that I was doing it once and only once, and then um, it has been interesting uh, in that how would I put it? One of the comments that have been made um, is that uh, I think it was Stephen Guilbeault that mentioned it on his sort of a post resignation tour um, that the federal government would have to come clean and admit that we would not be meeting our targets, that it would be impossible now. I thought I saw something yesterday on CBC. There it is. Yes. Um, it's from Power and Politics, and it was titled Carney says Canada won't meet 2030 or 2030 won't meet 2030 or 2030, if I'm remembering correctly here. Let's see that. Just going to go into it a little bit more here. Prime Minister Mark Carney tells Radio Canada, so it told Radio Canada, the French arm of CBC, that Canada's climate policy needs big changes in order to reach its 2030 and 2035 emission goals. Environment Minister Julie Debrusin was on Power and Politics to say that the goals are still possible, despite former cabinet colleague Stephen Guilbeault saying 2030 is out of reach. So there you go, kits and cups. But it seems that Prime Minister Mark Carney has admitted that we need to make these big changes, that we are not on track to meet the 2030 and 2035 climate goals. And I will take a moment to look for the Radio Canada segment on that and see if there's anything in there to inform you about. Because again, it's just a tagline on a YouTube video, but there's actually no news article in English stating this from the CBC, which is kind of interesting. Again, that's probably something that the government doesn't want to say too loudly either, right? At this moment, because there's a whole other demographic that they're courting for whom this is very important. All right, let's go back to Minister Debrusin, who is asked a very important question with regard to these rules, because it seems that there are some special dispensations for the province of Alberta specifically. And that's not surprising anymore, given that whole MOU essentially is a whole set of special dispensations for the province of Alberta. But let's just take a look here at what the minister has to say in response to a question specifically about that. So let's bring you to the window here. Got that open. And once again, Environment and Climate Change Minister Julie Debrusin.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for taking our questions. Can you tell me why Alberta gets more time to meet the regulations? The rest of the country has until 2030. Alberta has until 2035.
The way I would explain is actually that there are two different things. It was a bit where I started with the first question, which is Canada's goal is still to get to 75% reduction of methane emissions by 2030. The regulations are only one of those tools, and then the regulations on a national scale, it's anticipated that they will reduce emissions by about 72% nationally, and that then there will be other measures to get to the remaining share of those emissions. So the idea that, what the regulation and what an agreement with Alberta would look like, or any of the provinces on the regulations, And then what are all the other measures that get us still to 75% by 2030? They're not opposed to one another, right? There's a regulation, and then there's the other measures. So they can still fit together to get to our objectives.
So what are those other measures, and can we afford to dilly-dally when you yourself said that that methane is one of the most potent greenhouse gases?
I will actually push back on the idea that today is about dilly-dallying. In fact, I'm really excited about today because today is actually where we put into action regulations that are going to reduce the methane emissions in our country. It is one of the most important things that we can do and one of the most cost-effective things that we can do. As I mentioned, the way that the regulations are anticipated to work, the percentages aren't right in the regulation, but when we do the calculations, the way the regulations will work, they will get nationally the country to about 72% reduction of emissions by 2030, and other measures will carry us to the remaining 75% by 2030. So if we have an equivalency agreement with a province that says that on the regulation they're going to get to 75% by 2035, that doesn't deviate from where the regulation is, which is already anticipating about 72% by 2030. But then we have to have all of the other measures that I'm talking about. And a lot of those are going to be based on technology and how do we actually use a lot of great Canadian technology that's being developed, for example. How do we make the investments and how do we catalyze the investments to get to the extra emissions by 2030? They do line up together. So I just want to be clear, like there's a regulation and the percentages in the regulation, and then there are the other measures. Together, they actually do make massive reductions in our emissions. I mean, I think if you think of the number when we were talking about from oil and gas, 304 megatons between 2028 and 2040 is a massive reduction. We look at the landfill regulations that I know people are not necessarily as excited about, but we should be excited about landfill regulations. That is another, I'm going to get the number perhaps slightly off, but it's about 100, it's over 100 I believe, but I'd say 100 megatons of emissions reductions in the same timeline. That is a massive step forward in what our country needs to do. And like I said, it's in a way that's cost effective, and that actually Canada has the technologies that we're developing right here that we can sell to the outside world. It makes us a more competitive economy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so kits and cubs going into there, you see that the minister is making a very strong business case and also pushing back against the concept that this is dragging heels or dilly-dallying, that there actually is something concrete that is actually happening and ready to take place, and that this is not about more delays. This is these rules, even though everything comes into effect in 2028, the start of this happens now because if people want to start being compliant with the rules in 2028, they still have to make some changes in the lead up till then, and that would be stuff that is starting now, starting yesterday, because these rules and this policy has been announced. You see her mentioning as well about various projects, how they fit together, and various plans, how they fit together and come together, and what the cumulative effect of them together will be. All right. The next question I wanted to bring to your attention has to do with those two pathways that had been created for people to be able, companies and industry to be able to participate in this program and consider their efforts as being valid or acceptable. So let's see what the minister has to say about that, because that I knew was going to be a question that would come.
Good afternoon.
Oh, and by the way, kids and cubs, I apologize for the double sound. That's at the source video over there when the journalists are asking questions. The fact that it sort of doubles back, that's not us. That's an audio issue from the source that we are using, if you happen to be listening at home without the video.
regulation. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so your regulations, they lay out two compliance options for the facilities. I would like to focus on the second one that say is supposed to provide more flexibility. They also say it's more cost effective, but they say that it's a novel approach and design. So given that there is no real world example of this model being used, are you worried that offering this could be risky? And what if it doesn't hit the goals that you want it to? What then?
Okay, sorry, I will just point out, you were cutting out a little bit, but I think you were just asking about how the second pathway can work and do I believe that they will be effective. So that's what I generally understood the question to be. So what's innovative about these enhanced methane regulations for oil and gas is that there are two pathways, and the second one, that an industry could choose to go and choose that option, but it still has to meet the objectives in the regulation, and there has to be actually quite stringent monitoring that is a part of that second pathway. So they would still have to show that they can meet the regulations and where we're going with the methane regulations. They would and they would have to have, as I said, there's quite a bit of reporting and monitoring that forms part of the second pathway.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, we are still waiting on your department's progress report under the Net Zero Accountability Act. I believe this is due by the end of the year. It's now December 16th. We're running out of time for this year. So what is the holdup? When can we expect this report? And the other measures that you keep referencing, will they be detailed in a document like that?
So the emissions reductions plan progress report will be coming out before the end of the year, so it'll be coming out shortly. And if we take a moment to talk about what we need to do to reduce emissions across our country, it's regulations like these. These two regulations are a massive step forward in reducing emissions in our country. And as it's been pointed out, not just by me, but by others, methane is actually one of the most toxic when we're talking about climate change forms of carbon emissions. So this is actually going to be taking action in a very, very significant way. So that is something that carries forward in all of our planning on reducing emissions across our country.
Yes, Steve.
All right, so a little additional information about the various pathways and reporting back to the Canadian public that people had expected would have happened by now and is scheduled to happen before the end of the year, that we are told is still on track, but will happen a little later on. The final question I want to bring you here from the event. There's one more here, so I will just set it up and bring it to you right away. Just just jump right into it.
Unifying lots of voices of division, and also the two members of the Net Zero Advisory body have resigned, saying that your government is not living up to what it needs to be doing, and they feel as though their advice to you is just being ignored. And you've got two other of the remaining board members saying that they need changes. So what do you say to that?
What I would say is that today, in releasing enhanced methane regulations, not only for oil and gas, but also for landfills, that shows significant emissions reductions, we're showing how we're taking action. This was what we said we would do in our climate competitiveness strategy. When we set it out, the climate competitiveness strategy, we set forth that we needed to have stronger industrial carbon pricing. We said that we needed enhanced methane regulations. We had other measures like sustainable investment guidelines or taxonomy, working towards sustainable bonds. There were all sorts of different measures that were set out including, like I mentioned, more clean investment tax credits. All of those coming together on a day like today, we see how those pieces come together. And today we see how we have strengthened and enhanced methane regulations going apply, like I said, to oil and gas and landfill. Canada has a wonderful story to tell on methane. And I really think Canada should stand proud on this one. We are a co-convener of the Global Methane Pledge. We were one of the first countries in the world to have methane regulations on oil and gas. We are actually on track as meeting the previous targets under the previous regulations, and now we're going further. So I think that Canadians should stand tall today in looking at what we're doing, what we're announcing today, but also what the opportunities are that it marks forward.
So then are Catherine Abreu and Stephen Donner misguided in their criticisms of what you and the government are doing?
I'm just going to have to respectfully disagree with where I feel that our country and our government is going. Our government is working towards concrete solutions to fight climate change. As I mentioned today, the enhanced methane regulations, that actually puts us very much in a strong position on reducing emissions. And it's part of a larger story when we're talking about climate competitiveness. It's about Canadian industries that are at the forefront of methane detection and methane monitoring. That's something that we can use as we're looking to other countries as an export market and opportunities. It's about how we're going to build a strong, clean future for our country. And so when I get to stand today in front of you and talk about this area of strong Canadian leadership, I think that that's something that I hope Canadians can all join me in standing proud and seeing the opportunities that brings for our future.
Hey, thank you, Flora.
All right, kids and cubs. So there you go. The Minister of the Environment, Julie Debrusin, making the announcements of of the oil and gas methane reduction emissions being challenged as well. Being forced to provide some accountability for the two members of the Net Zero Advisory Panel we talked about yesterday's show, who stepped up and walked away from their board because, as they were saying, we don't mind. We understand, not that we don't mind, we understand that the government may not take all of our advice. We understand that this is volunteer, and we're there to provide advice and they can take it or leave it. But we do draw the line at being a performative body that exists so that the government can essentially point to it and say, hey, we have this body, but that has never consulted or even asked for its take on stuff. So, being asked for a little accountability on that, and then it's up to you to judge based on that answer if you think that's that accountability has in fact been given. I have indeed found a little bit the portion where the Prime Minister seems to be admitting that the 2030 and 2035 targets will not be met. It's a little segment here that was on yesterday's Power and Politics. It's the opening segment, an introduction to an interview with Julie Debrusin. After the announcements, I will not go through the interview, but I will do the opening segment so that you may hear from the Prime Minister himself making this statement.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will not meet its emission goals with its current climate policy. Speaking to Radio-Canada's Patrice Roy in French today, Carney said his government is making a big change to a pragmatic climate policy based on competitiveness and affordability.
C'est le temps de produire.
You're saying this is the time to produce. No, that's not exactly right. It is time to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And we must invest. We must invest in order to meet those goals. We have a policy and regulations and restrictions, but there hasn't been enough action. So it is clear that Canada will not meet its climate goals for 2030 or 2035 under the current policy. So we have to change that policy, and we are in the process of doing that with major investments in carbon capture, major investments in Quebec, with the Quebec government. So major investments in hydroelectric energy, major investments in nuclear energy, and much more than that. So that's a big change, a major policy change. But it is a pragmatic policy based on business competitiveness and affordability for all Canadians.
The Liberals announced new changes to methane regulations today, which will give some oil and gas companies more flexibility in how they reduce those emissions. And Carney has promised a tighter industrial carbon tax, but he's also removed the consumer carbon tax. He's paused the electric vehicle mandate, and he's signaled he's canceling the oil and gas emissions cap. So how can this become a path to meeting Canada's 2030 and 2035 targets?
All right. So there you have it. Kids and Cubs, the minister himself admitting that we are probably not going to get there, at least with what we have now, stating we do have to make some adjustments, which we do. And I think we had to do that as well. We would have had to do that anyway, because if I remember correctly, reading from the past reports, it was still saying the same thing, that we were making good progress, we were on the way, we were making reductions, but if we wanted to hit the targets, there were still a couple of other things that we had to do, because there were things planned, like the emissions cap and the clean energy regulations, but hadn't come into effect yet, and therefore you couldn't record any gains from that. But that there were a couple of other things that we probably still needed to add, but that we were there, we were on track, and it did. That we weren't on track necessarily to meet him with everything that we had at the moment, but it was not impossible to get on track if we did add a couple of things, and that the things that were to come would yield the results that were being expected or predicted. So very important here. Noticing from the comments in the chat here, that the Kids and Cubs seem to be rather impressed with Minister Debrusin, and one of the kids commenting that the segment that I just showed with David Cochran, that Debrusin had actually had a good interview with him as well. So she's getting better, because she did have an interview not too long ago. I think it was I think I was also on Power and Politics, maybe with Rosemary Barton on this one, if I remember correctly, or maybe Rosie Barton Live, where she was being challenged on our ability to meet the 2030 targets, and before any of this new announcements were made, and claiming that yes, indeed, it is indeed still possible, and not coming across as very credible, considering all the measures that had been rolled back or curtailed, and the very few of them that had been announced, and of the things that had been announced, things that were embedded in major projects. These are things that might happen later on. We will not be realizing the benefits of mining copper with zero emissions until the mine is actually built, and we did get no net benefit until, let's say, another mine of some kind that had higher emissions goes offline and is replaced by this one that is, has zero emissions, and then you start to see a net benefit. But that will take a while, and maybe not even happen prior to 2030, the recording of those first benefits, right? So it's nice to announce these things that have measures embedded, but some of these things may not be either established, or if they are, running at full cruising altitude in order to say that these are the maximum emission reductions that we're getting from this project. So while they may be scheduled to arrive eventually, they might not arrive prior to 2030 to help with those goals. So she was not looking particularly credible. Now that she has a little bit more meat to put on the bone, I agree. She does come across as better and more informed and more substantive. But some of the first outings, she just didn't have a lot to say other than, pretty much, don't give up hope. It's still possible. And people weren't particularly moved by that message, considering what they had been seeing up until now. So yeah, some pretty interesting decisions here. I am going to go to an article about this just in case there is more information, because sometimes in a press conference, not every single detail that's important manages to get the attention it deserves, because there's what the minister wants to emphasize, and then there's the questions that journalists want to ask, and sometimes some finer details get missed. But this, according to David Thurton from CBC News. The federal government announced Tuesday new regulations to tackle one of the most potent forms of climate pollution, methane, from the oil and gas industry. The announcement comes as an environmental group releases new footage that shows the extent of the problem in Alberta, while Ottawa softens its approach in that province. The regulations, which sources say come after months of delays, contain significant emission reductions but offer more leeway to oil and gas producers after many complained that the draft proposal by the Trudeau government was too strict. Since becoming Prime Minister, Mark Carney has surprised some environmentalists by stripping away key planks of Canada's climate policy and backing a potential pipeline to the Pacific coast. Tuesday's announcement is the Carney government's first major one where it is adding a climate policy instead of removing one. Well, there you go. I guess I was right. However, sources tell CBC News that new methane regulations were ready to roll out as early as 9 months ago. Debrucin did not deny the methane regulations were delayed and suggested they were ready at a time when Liberals were electing a new leader and Canadians were about to go to the polls. CBC News is not naming the sources because they weren't authorized to speak publicly. The federal government is also giving the Alberta government more time to comply. A memorandum of understanding that the two levels of government signed in November gives Alberta until 2035 instead of 2030 to meet the methane targets. Because of this, some experts are calling the regulations a step forward in one sense, but a step backward in another. Quote, the effectiveness of these regulations will be undercut by this delay in Alberta, says Amanda Bryant, a senior analyst. Said Amanda Bryant, a senior analyst at Calgary-based energy think tank Pembina Institute. Quote, I will actually push back on the idea that today is about dilly-dallying, Debrucin said when asked about the Alberta exception. Today is the day when we put into action regulations that are going to reduce methane emissions across the country. In a statement, the Alberta government said it will sign a side deal with Ottawa instead of negotiating what is known in technical terms as an equivalency agreement. Methane pollution mostly comes from fossil fuel extraction and production, often, though, accidental leaks or intentional releases. Some facilities burn off this natural gas, which has methane as its primary component, through a practice known as flaring instead of capturing the valuable fuel. But the climate warming impact of releasing methane into the atmosphere is enormous. Its global warming potential is more than 80 times that of carbon dioxide. The new regulations ban those releases, also known as, quote, venting, and, quote, establishes an inspection schedule to find leaks and repair them, according to an advanced copy of the announcement. Operators have another compliance option. They can design their own approaches, providing a facility meets, quote, methane intensity thresholds that are on par with standards from, quote, leading international voluntary certification programs. Fossil fuel companies like MEG Energy argued that the Trudeau government's proposed regulations were, quote, excessively prescriptive and called for more flexibility. One industry group said it's still not happy with the final regulations. Quote, we're disappointed today, said Paul Chiliak, a vice president with the Canadian Gas Association. We're not seeing eye to eye on the costs, and these costs will be passed on to the consumer. Mr. Chiliak, I would say, too bad, so sad. Get with the program. Quit your whining. You guys have dragged your heels on this long enough, being disappointed, wanting more handouts, more carve-outs, more whatnot. It's time to buck down and just get to work. We don't want to hear it now. The association said it estimates the regulations will cost industry around $3,000 per ton to implement, largely from monitoring and detecting methane leaks. The government states its analysis shows these new regulations are expected to reduce oil and gas production growth by an estimated 0.2% between 2025 and 2035. But in terms of greenhouse gas emission reductions, this policy is expected to slash 304 million tons. Aside from its planet warming impacts, methane is harmless to humans, but natural gas also contains hazardous compounds like ethane, propane, and butane. Quote, these are complex chemicals that have been implicated in such things as cancers in humans, said Dr. Joe Vipond, an emergency physician in Calgary who works with the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment. The government says the regulations, quote, are expected to result in fewer premature deaths, reduce symptoms among asthmatics, and prevent crop losses due to ozone damage. Aside from cleaner air, conserving natural gas instead of wasting it could provide enough fuels to heat over 11 million Canadian homes for a year, according to government estimates. The federal government is also releasing new measures for landfills. Methane from food, paper, and other organic waste and garbage dumps will now, in some cases, have to be monitored and captured. Between 2026 and 2040, the landfill regulations are expected to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 100 million tons. According to an analysis by the Canadian Climate Institute, Canada won't meet its 2030 climate targets, and it would be lucky if it eliminates half the pollution it pledged to achieve. The analysis cited the government's decision to roll back some Trudeau-era environmental regulations. Quote, I mean, it's really inexplicable. Here we have a methane pollution problem, said Thomas Green, the senior manager of climate solutions at the David Suzuki Foundation, about the government's decision to delay rolling out the new methane rules. The foundation has surveyed oil and gas sites in Alberta and Saskatchewan with the help of a specialized camera that can detect methane gas emissions which are invisible to the naked eye. Visiting the same locations in both 2022 and 2025, the environmental group said it found the problem has gotten worse. Quote, in some cases, we see large volumes of moving across the scene and across the landscape and heading towards farms or communities. And that's very concerning for us, given you know how the methane brings with it other volatile organic compounds that have health impacts, Green said. And there you have it, kids and cubs. What we are doing on methane reduction. And again, the federal government's first announcement about what it is it doing to add to the fight on climate rather than pull back from it. Very important thing to do, as we mentioned here and as we saw in the article. Methane emissions are 80 times more damaging to the climate than CO2 emissions. Again, when the minister's talking about cost-effective ways that we can have maximum impact, focusing very strenuously on methane emissions, particularly if we can use that type of technology to survey and monitor and detect leaks and then identify them quickly and fix them, could be very, very positive for us in our fight against climate change, especially as if we can tackle methane really quickly and we can get that reduced really quickly while we are doing things like building the Pathways Project for climate capture and storage for what is coming out of the oil sands area. It's a good way to get a lot of reductions now as we prepare the terrain to get significant reductions from the oil and gas part, or for just the GHG part of the equation in future years. So again, in stages and laddering things to make sure that there is some activity that is reducing emissions constantly at all stages of the development and construction and planning of these projects. And even we can even go all the way back to proposal and planning and then construction of these projects. And this time putting the three terms in the proper order in which things happen rather than going backwards. Because sometimes I just do that. All right, kids and cubs. So that was pretty much the big news from yesterday. There's other things, of course, kids and cubs, to talk about because the news doesn't stop. It would appear, with regard to the fortunes of the Conservative Party of Canada, that certain cabinet ministers within the Liberal Party might be having a bit of fun with what's going on. Clearly, the Liberals are having better days than the Conservatives have been having lately. But as you know, we have mentioned on the show that the fact that Michael Ma was nowhere on the radar of either the party or the pundits in terms of being someone that had been identified as being disgruntled or unhappy with what was going on, somebody that was looking to make a move. This type of thing uh, creates panic and paranoia within a political party. Because when you think you know where things are coming from, that's one thing. When you think you have spotted all the things or all the potential sources of a problem and find out that you haven't, that creates some panic as well. It causes people to be looking over their shoulders and asking a lot of questions. Liberal ministers, there are two in particular, Mr. Hodson being one, and Minister Kinnan being the other. And if it looks again, if it sounds like I'm trying to stall, I am because I'm seeking clips that are not coming along as easily as I had hoped. But that's okay. We will find them, and we will get them for you. So there are some additional little details you might want to be aware of. And one of the things about about Michael Ma of the Conservative Party that may have had something to do with his floor crossing is that Markham Unionville, the electoral district, is literally geographically abutting against uh, the riding of Energy and Natural Resources and Energy Minister Tim Hodgson. And it would appear that Michael Ma's wife and Minister Hodgson's wife are very, 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 very good friends. And that Mr. Ma is also, like Mr. Hodgson and like Mr. Carney, a businessman from the world of business. And given that, yes, he did run for the Conservatives previously under Andrew Scheer, but did not win the seat, but did win this time and is a new Conservative MP, probably thought he was running under the Poilievre banner and that they would be in government, finds out that he is not, decided that he was a member of the business community who ran for politics because he actually wanted to get stuff done, sees what Poilievre is doing, is not particularly impressed, sees what Carney is doing, is impressed, and may have just proactively picked up the phone or had a conversation with Mr. Hodgson stating, I might be ready to take a leap. So business people who are not traditionally politicians, who are pragmatic, who have, like I said, I've got a couple of years. I want to get stuff done. TikTok, let's make things happen. They may be the more natural audience that Prime Minister Carney might be attracting, and it might be explaining why it is that Conservatives, rather than New Democrats, are the ones that are crossing the floor. Because everybody expected that Mark Carney would go shopping within the New Democratic Party, but it turns out his natural abilities, his natural skill, and his ability to at least adopt, consider, put in place progressive conservative policies or policies that are perceived at being conservative friendly or progressive conservative. That combination of things, along with a candidate like Pierre, who's unserious and does not seem to be going anywhere, that may have been what led to the floor crossings. So here we have some video of Minister Hodgson and be stirring the pot a little.
Our Prime Minister is a former businessman and a pragmatist. I'm a former businessman and a pragmatist. Michael Ma is a former businessman and a pragmatist. We all share a view that it is a time to unite, not to divide. And I'll let Michael speak for himself, but the Liberal Party is proud to have him as a new caucus member.
You're one away from a majority now. Do you think you can convince more to come over? Is there some people ready to defect?
Let's say I'm getting lots of inquiries.
He was walking away from the podium and decided that that question was important enough that he should come back to the podium and answer it. And you will notice there might have been a little smirk there, a little smile. He certainly wasn't unhappy to be able to be making that statement that he is getting, allegedly, a lot of inquiries. If you are a Conservative staffer, somebody who's with the Conservative Party and maybe in the inner circle, and you hear that, that might be the kind of thing that sends alarm bells ringing, that makes your heart skip a beat, that makes your chest ease a little bit. Especially after you've had someone step aside and you had no idea it was coming. After you thought you had the whole issue contained. And yeah, can't find the Stephen McKinnon clip, unfortunately. I wish I could, because it was really good. I think it was David Cochran on CBC's Power and Politics had referred to it as a something eating grin. Because apparently on CBC Power and Politics, you can't say shit eating grin. Here is the Stephen McKinnon clip, Kits and Cubs. So let's watch this one. And again, let's see whether or not there was indeed a shit.
With respect to the floor crossing last night, can you tell us how you managed to convince Mr. Ma to come across, how many other MPs you're talking to, and when we can expect to see the next Conservative join the Liberal ranks?
Well, what I'll say is I'll repeat what I just said in French, which is that all of my colleagues here have the same experience of speaking to Conservative members, unfortunately a group which is in the minority in their group, who are extremely frustrated with the leadership of their party, extremely frustrated with the small games and the obstruction. They tell us how much they enjoyed the spring session. Ironically, Mr. Poilievre was not a part of the House of Commons during that session, but where we passed and they voted for big transformative legislation. Look, they realize, like we do, that we're at a turning point. They realize, like we do, that we're in a trade war and that serious solutions are required. And they are required every day to go through this charade of obstruction, and you see it, repeating the same question 40 times in the House of Commons every day. That is a soul-destroying experience for many Conservative members of Parliament. And so all of us hear it. Unfortunately, those do not seem to be the majority of the Conservative caucus. The majority of the Conservative caucus want to follow this leader, to appeal to the base, to prop up his leadership, and to win their leadership review in January. So we can only hope that some of this goes away after that review. But in the meantime, there are others like Mr. Ma who I know share the kind of view that I just described.
All right, kids and cubs. So there we go. Stephen McKinnon making it clear that there are certain dynamics within the conservative ranks that might be soul crushing. And again, seeming to hint at the fact that there will be others. Now, kids and cubs, whether there are others or not, especially if there are not, very, very clever strategic move on the part of McKinnon and Hodgson to be with a twinkle in the eye, suggesting that they know for sure that there may be more, or that they're getting lots of expressions of interest. Because that does nothing but hike the level of paranoia within the party. Because if I was their communications strategist, I would have told them to say that whether it was true or not. I mean, there's part of me. You remember that, for those of you who are old enough, remember the Eddie Murphy skit, The Ice Cream Man? Right? When he goes, the ice cream man would always drive an extra block. Right? And we're behind it running, ice cream, ice cream. He goes, and Eddie Murphy imagining that the ice cream man is talking to his friend and says, watch how fast I can make these little fuckers run. Right? That would have been, my advice. It's like, whether it's true or not, just say that it is. And then watch them light their hair on fire and run. And grab your popcorn. Sometimes I'm not a nice beaver. But this certainly does not help to maintain calm and order within the Conservative Party ranks. Whether they are stirring the pot or whether or not this is actually true, I approve. Knowing full well, I must caution kids and cubs, maybe some early words of wisdom. He or she or they who stir the pot must not be surprised if at some point some of the contents of the pot winds up on one's hands. That is the downside of stirring the pot. So stir, but stir carefully. I'm having too much fun with this. Piep and Freude. 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 Does it make me a bad person, kids and cubs, that I actually have a wonderfully good time when bad things happen to pee-pee? Some days I think I should have more empathy, because karma and what goes around comes around, but I just cannot stop. I'm only human, or I'm only a beaver, and I cannot stop but being tickled pink and delighted whenever something not good happens for him. He just so deserves it. I just can't bring myself to feel sorry for him, and I really should, but I can't. I just can't, kids. He's he just doesn't do it for me, and I just do not see this man contributing anything positive in any way, shape, or form to the nation or to the public discourse. And the sooner he is gone, the better it is. And for everyone that he's lied about or smeared or defamed or knocked down or berated or tried to humiliate everyone, he deserves it. He deserves every single millisecond of the paranoia and sleepless nights and worrying and ruminating and whatnot that he must be going through right now. He deserves it. He deserves it. He so deserves it. All right, kits and cubs. A couple of since we've been doing that this week, looking at some stories that have gotten away from us as all of this is going on. Little tidbit: the recall action against Danielle Smith has been approved, and therefore we are now at the phase where we can start soon, or if it hasn't started already, gathering signatures. Also, there is now at least one NDP MLA in Alberta that is the subject of a recall thing. As we mentioned, we wouldn't surprise us if somebody then turned around and tried to make that happen with NDP MPs. I really thought, however, that it would be how would you what would I call it? That it would be happening much more actively within the NDP circles. Like, I thought that when the Conservatives and the really angry ones got wind of how this was being used appropriately, but how it was being used, that they would turn around and says, oh yeah, well, we can do this too. And that there would be a mass move to have the same number of these recall initiatives against the NDP as there are against the UCP. Turns out that that does not seem to be happening. So that's kind of interesting as well. But just a little development. It's getting a little bit more clear for or serious for Danielle Smith personally. So we'll see how she reacts to that. On that front, kits and cubs, I do not know where things went, unfortunately. There we go. On that front, however, there is one bit of positive news-ish from Alberta, and that would be that it appears that the government of Alberta and the federal government have reached an agreement, at least on the childcare program. And this would be specifically, unfortunately, only for a year that Alberta has been willing to sign on. According to Robson Fletcher, here it says Ottawa will provide an additional $1.17 billion to Alberta in order to extend the federal provincial subsidized childcare program for another year only, for some reason. The previous agreement was set to expire April 1st, 2026. The new deal will run through March 31st, 2027. Federal Jobs and Family Minister Patty Hajdu announced the new deal alongside Alberta Education and Childcare Minister Dimitrios Nikolaitis on Friday afternoon, against whom there's also a recall petition. In fact, he was the original one against if this was started. Hajdu described the affordable, high-quality childcare as not just a benefit to children, but also an economic tool that saves families thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars annually, and lets more parents participate in the labor force. When parents can find a good, reliable childcare, they can work, train, or build a business, she said. Nikolaitis called the deal an important bridge that will provide both stability and time for the two levels of government to negotiate a more long-term agreement. We're excited about the prospects of this new deal, he said. We could have rushed into a long-term deal that maybe was not the best fit for Alberta, or we could try to find a temporary measure to continue our work to find a system that actually meets the needs of all Alberta families. Ottawa and Alberta have been at odds in the past on some aspects of how the childcare agreement should function. Alberta was one of the last provinces to sign on to the original deal in 2021, as then Premier Jason Kenney criticized the federal approach as too cookie-cutter and not flexible enough for parents. The original agreement was signed in November 2021 with the initial goal of $10 per day childcare. Since then, childcare costs for Alberta families have plummeted from as high as $100 per day for some parents prior to the agreement to an average of about $15 per day now. Nikolaitis said the new deal will see that $15 average price maintained. According to the federal government, 8 provinces and territories are now delivering regulated childcare for an average of $10 a day or less. And Alberta, with all its oil revenue, still can't manage to make it happen. This is a question of will, clearly. Nicolaitis said Alberta's childcare system is different from other provinces because it relies more heavily on for-profit daycare facilities and family day homes. Well, there's your trouble right there, isn't it? As part of the New Deal, Nicolaitis said Alberta negotiated an additional 5,000 new spaces in for-profit centres and the removal of a limit of unfunded spaces for day home operators. The deal has also seen 51,000 subsidized childcare spaces created over the past 4 years, according to government figures, across both facility-based daycare centers and day homes. The New Deal sets a goal of 68,700 spaces created in total by March 2027. While the cost savings for Alberta families have been described as life-changing, there have also been numerous criticisms of the deal from parents, daycare operators, and day home operators over the years, as Alberta's system has gone through numerous administrative changes since the deal was first struck. Haidu said there have been growing pains across the country as Canada tries to establish a more robust and consistent childcare system. It's not a perfect system yet, but I can tell you it's much better than nothing, which is what we had just a few years ago, Haidu said. And Alberta is not the only province with which, Ottawa has signed a deal. In November, Saskatchewan signed a 5-year extension on a deal. Here in the article, it says here that the federal and Saskatchewan governments have reached a deal to extend the province's $10 daycare child agreement for another 5 years, beginning in the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The announcement was made at the YMCA in Regina, and this was around the end of November, by Saskatchewan Education Minister Everett Hindley and Buckley Belanger, Secretary of State for Rural Development. The extension includes a 5-year renewal of the Canada-Saskatchewan Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement and the bilateral agreement starting in 2026-2027. The deal includes a federal commitment of $1.6 billion over multiple years with a 3% annual increase in base funding starting in 27-28. The deal expands the age eligibility so children who turn 6 while attending kindergarten can continue to receive $10 a day care until they finish the school year. Quote, I think we're heading in the right direction. Certainly having children over 6 included in the deal is going to be a great thing, said Kara Warner, director of the Southeast Childcare Now. It also includes a 1-year extension of the Early Learning and Childcare Infrastructure Fund through 26-27. Hindley said the new agreement will let some for-profit daycares to access the subsidized $10 a day program. Quote, a very small portion of the sector would be for-profit, Hindley said. What it means is that for-profit operators would have to fall under the same regulations and provisions of the agreements in order to qualify. Warner said she's waiting for details to see exactly how much money is allotted to for-profits. Everything's kind of up in the air. All we know is that part of that $1.6 billion will be allocated to the for-profit centers. Advocates have been calling for an equitable funding model for years and are hoping the deal leads to a permanent wage grid for daycare workers. Quote, so having that funding model, having that wage grid in place is going to be a huge step forward. The province said its commitment to attracting, retaining, and growing a strong and skilled workforce of early childhood education professionals. From April 2021 to September 2025, over $171 million has gone towards wage enhancements, training, and professional development, according to a news release. That includes wage supplements from up to $885 per hour for certified early childhood educators, tuition-free training programs, grants and bursaries aimed at recruitment and retention. Belanger said more than 23,000 new childcare spaces have been announced in Saskatchewan since 2021. Quote, for too many families, access to childcare has been a major barrier, he said. Each new space means more families have a choice in how they balance work, school, and home life. Regina YMCA CEO Steve Compton said he welcomes it. Quote, we are committed to high-quality, accessible, and inclusive childcare, Compton said at the announcement. A Saskatoon daycare owner said the announcement is a relief for families and operators. Quote, it's very exciting news, said Gurmeet Dinsha, who runs Sweet Second Home Daycare in Saskatoon. Parents are getting relief, and we are also getting relief. Without this, parents with 2 or 3 kids could not afford $2,000 or $3,000 in fees, and we would lose business. Regina mom Shayla Dietrich, who has 2 children in subsidized daycare, previously told CBC that, quote, she is relieved and glad that the province has secured the agreement. Quote, as a parent, like 100%, like very excited, very relieved, she said in an interview. And as a working mom, there's always that stress over your head a little bit, like, is this coming? Is this something I have to deal with? Can my family manage that? And Saskatchewan, not the only province. In fact, 7 other provinces have signed on to 5-year extensions with the federal government back in March, while Ontario signed an agreement in principle. But in November, Ontario also signed a 1-year extension. And this is according to Alison Jones of the Canadian Press. Ontario has secured a 1-year extension with the federal government for the national $10 a day childcare program, giving parents reassurance their fees won't rise for at least 12 more months, but with much hard work still to be done. The program that lowers parents' child care fees, now $19 a day in average on Ontario, as an interim step towards 10, had been set to expire on March 31st. Most provinces and territories signed extensions with the federal government before this year's federal election, but Ontario only signed an agreement in principle to continue the program. Ontario Education Minister Paul Calandra had said the federal government needed to address a shortfall of $2 billion per year that would occur if the current funding structure is left in place, and warned that parent fees would rise without additional funding. The 1-year extension for Ontario comes with $695 million in additional funding from Ottawa, which Calandra says mean fees won't rise next year for parents, but isn't enough for fees to be lowered further towards $10 a day. Calandra says that it's a great start and a recognition from the federal government that more needed to be done. Quote, this is an acknowledgement from them This is an acknowledgement from them that an additional $695 million is required each and every year just to maintain the $19, he said in an interview. This doesn't bring us down to $10 on average. It maintains us at $19 on average over the next year, and then we'll continue to work on how we can bring it down together. Negotiations on an extension did not start in earnest until recently, making some parents, operators, and advocates nervous about what would happen to fees starting April 1st. But Calandra said once talks started, they did stop, and the two sides have a good working relationship. Federal Jobs and Families Minister Patty Hajdu said she is optimistic about talks with Ontario to get a deal for future years. Quote, I think without a question there is a desire by all levels of government to extend and protect childcare, she said in an interview. This is a key element of affordability for many Canadian families. With the program secured in Ontario for another year, Calandra said his focus, along with negotiations for a longer-term deal, will be on the ratio of nonprofit and for-profit providers in the system. The province has said that a limit on the percentage of for-profit spaces in its deal with the federal government is hampering growth, with Peel Region alone having to turn down more than 2,000 potential spaces under the $10 a day program because the operators were for-profit. The federal government now seems more open to discussing it, Calandra said. At least they're now willing to look at that with us over the next little bit, which is light years ahead of where we were in the past, he said. I'm quite optimistic going ahead. Hajdu said she is focused on high quality, which she said is often found in public and not-for-profit systems. Quote, it's a real key element to a successful national childcare plan that the care is consistent in quality across the country, she said. Carolyn Ferns, policy coordinator for the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, said the promise of the program was $10 a day, not $19 a day, and both governments need to continue working towards that. Quote, this 1-year funding extension cannot be the beginning of breaking the $10 a day commitment, she wrote in a statement. This should be the start of negotiating a stronger and longer agreement in which both levels of government step up to fully fund a high-quality $10 a day system. When Ontario signed the childcare deal with the federal government in 2022, it agreed to create 86,000 new spaces within the system by December 2026, which the Financial Accountability Officer has said would still leave the province short of meeting demand for more than 220,000 spots. The province only achieved about 75% of its interim space creation target at the end of 2024, the Auditor General has found. As well, while the number of registered early childhood educators in the system has increased, it's still below the province's target. And while the government estimated in 2022 that it would need 8,500 more early childhood educators by 2026, the auditor said that it has now risen to 10,000. Childcare operators have said one of the biggest challenges in creating new spaces and maintaining existing ones is staff shortages. Ontario has introduced a wage floor for early childhood educators, but workers' advocates and some operators have called for improved compensation, including a wage grid, in order to improve recruitment and retention. Ontario officials have previously said the province cannot fund a wage grid on its own, and Hajdu said Monday that she is interested in working with Ontario to find, quote, what inputs are needed that are realistic and achievable to stabilize the entire sector. Quote, I think we all agree that in order to have a strong, stable sector, we have to pay and compensate fairly, and that early childhood education workers have to have a desire to stay, she said. So there you have that, kids and cubs, some positive news on the childcare front here for you. Taking another little look to see if there is something else that I had wanted to bring to you today, especially when I'm trying to catch up with pieces that have missed, because with each day that goes by, these things go back in time. So we wanted to make sure that we are absolutely getting everything for you. Today, I think we are pretty good. I'm just taking a look here. Want to make sure so everything. So what I can do then in that case, kits and cubs, is bring you perhaps a little bit. Oh no, I did. There is another big piece of news I forgot to mention. Oh my, can't believe I forgot to mention. But you know what? I will put that in the Canadians who make us proud section because it does indeed happen to deal with that. So in that case, kits and cubs, I think I might call this one a show. Take another quick look just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But let's say we're calling it a show. And if there is, I'll put it at the end if there's subs. Kits and cubs, this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. It really makes us happy when you do, especially when you share a little bit about why it is that our content resonated with you. That is invaluable advertising. Kids and Cubs, because you are busy and you are on the go, maybe you need some help from us, which we can provide thanks to the Ray Girl who sponsors our pod page, podpay.com/the truenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words, or you scan this QR code that just appeared and that will bring you right to our site. And when you click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And that way you can pop us into your ears, take on the day, and remain informed at the same time. It's win-win. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, we need help. So you can do that by traveling on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. And remember, if you are watching live, smash with our buttons now, and you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. But yes, we invite you to smash with our buttons, come to our page, and get freaky because we don't judge. No, we do not. Well, I mean, we judge, but we don't judge you. So give our buttons a little click, like, share, and subscribe. Kids Elaine and Cassie would definitely approve, and it would make the damn fam so very happy. Plus, it helps us with the algorithm. So thanks for that. And if you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cups, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. In internet fees, cell phone fees, cable subscriptions, subscriptions to news sources, subscription to digital software and all that kind of stuff that we use for editing and graphics and all that good stuff. And we do need your help. Plus, as well, we need to maintain our staffing levels, coffee, hot chocolate, donuts, and treats that keep on disappearing. And without your help, we just can't get this done without our staff. So, kids and cubs, if you think that it's staff bonus time, your beaver will never say no to a bonus hot chocolate or bonus coffee, cookies, and cake and pie and all that sweet stuff. I really do have a sweet tooth. Well, hey, then you can help us, Kits and Cubs, with a generous donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Keep your favorite beaver moist and happy with a little donation to our tip jar. And we thank you so much for all you are able to contribute. And if you are still buying Canadian Kits and Cubs and do not want to help those US CE Tech Bros, you don't have to, because in that case, you just send an email to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com and it goes from your Canadian bank to our Canadian bank, 100% Canadian. No CE Tech Bros get a cut of your donation, which means that cut comes to us. Yes, we get 100% of your donation, which means your donation goes further. It buys you more beaver. And who doesn't love more beaver, right? So, I'm just being silly, Kits and Cubs. But if you would, please, it would mean the world to us if you donate that way as well. Now, kids and cubs, remember, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is also the address at which you can write us. So if you're not able to contribute financially, why not contribute by letting us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, or letting us know if there's a guest that you would like us to try and wrestle onto the show so that we can have an opportunity to get to know them better. All of that, let us know. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home, right down here in the comment section on our YouTube page, if you happen to be listening live with the best damn fam in all of podcasting, or on your own time, our Instagram page, and the Damn Fam Discord. Lots of places where you can interact and let us know what you think. And we do try to read everything, kids and cubs. Maybe not so much on the Damn Fam Discord because there's a lot of stuff going on there and there's just one of me. But in all the other places, we do try to read absolutely everything. And even though we're not able to answer you, we do read your comments, and they too get worked back into the show in order to make it better for you. So thank you for all of your contributions. It means the world to us when you interact with us. It gives us a nice little warm fuzzy. It lets us know that, when we go knocking on the monitor, is anybody out there? Well, yeah, you let us know that there are. So thank you for that. Words of, oh, wait a minute, because democracy is something that you do, kids or cubs. We still have that petition going on, House of Commons petition, E6821, to encourage the members of the legislature to introduce some legislation that would make it such that media ownership laws encourage it or require that our media be owned by Canadians to serve Canadians for the best interest of Canadians. So that link has gone into the chat. A few gains in signatures over the last 24 hours. So 7,535 signatures this time. I think that's maybe only 40 more since yesterday. So let's share this a little more widely, and let's get those numbers up, kids and cubs. I'm relying on you. All right. Because democracy, I know I said that already. It's time for our words of wisdom, kids and cubs. And I wish I remembered the words of wisdom that I gave you earlier, because I would just repeat them. And I don't know when I said them, so I can't tell you where to timestamp back up to. So those words of wisdom still apply if you can remember them. Oh man, I'm terrible today. Okay, and but also I'll drop in a little extra wisdom though. However, kids and cubs, since I don't remember my original one, smile today at random strangers. When you're walking down the street and doing your business, or you're shopping, or smile at the cashier. Just genuine smile. Make someone's day. Give them a little jolt of happiness. Okay. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, kids and cubs, if you may, please, if you will, please say at the count of 3, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock, because I love some audience participation. 1, 2, 3. Oh, kids and cubs, as always, right on time. If you want a little cock-a-doodle-doo, well, here it is. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. right, kids and cubs. News of Canadians who make us proud, and is not a typical one for us. Uh, we are a standing ovation today to Skate Canada, and we have to go to. I would rather get this one from a sports site, but I'm not seeing it at the moment. I know that Sportsnet had it, so I'm going to go there. But Skate Canada did something really cool. If you remember back in the days in the United States when they were trying to pass all those bathroom bills, particularly in North Carolina, and I believe there was an NBA All-Star game that was supposed to be played there and got pulled in order to apply some pressure and to get that law reversed. Well, it seems Skate Canada has done the same thing, according to the Canadian press. Canada's governing figure skating says Alberta is now a no-go zone for national and international events because of its law on transgender athletes. Alberta Premier Smith called the organization's refusal to hold events in the province disgraceful and said her government expects an apology. To you, Danielle, I say go fuck yourself. Pardon my language. But what is disgraceful is taking fundamental rights away from children and trying to insert yourself within the relationship between a family and a patient and their doctor. And you do not expect an apology. You don't deserve one. You should be offering one. Skate Canada, in a statement Tuesday, said its new policy is due to the provincial law, the Fairness and Safety in Sports Act, that prohibits transgender athletes from participating in female-only sports. The law, which came into effect September 1st, blocks transgender athletes from Alberta who are 12 and older from competing in female amateur sports. Skate Canada said the decision comes after long consideration. Quote, Skate Canada considers a variety of criteria when selecting host locations for its national events. Following a careful assessment of Alberta's Fairness and Safety in Sport Act, Skate Canada has determined that we are unable to host events in the province while maintaining our national standards for safe and inclusive sport. Basically, Skate Canada is telling the government of Alberta and the entire world that their law, to which they want to apply the notwithstanding clause, that is allegedly intended to make people more safe, actually makes people unsafe. Smith on social media accused the organization of refusing to hold events in Alberta, quote, because we choose to protect women and girls in sports. No, that's not why they choose to refuse it. They're not refusing to host events in your province because you choose to protect women and girls. They literally said they refuse it because your laws put people in danger. You create conditions in which people could reasonably be expected to, at some point, unalive themselves, is what you have done. Quote, we expect Skate Canada will apologize and adjust their policies once they realize they are not only compromising the fairness and safety of their athletes, but are also offside with the international community, including the International Olympic Committee, which is moving in the same direction as Alberta. She said her United Conservative Party government review reflects common sense and popular opinion. Alberta Sports Minister Andrew Boychenko echoed the Premier's remarks, saying provincial rules keep girls safe and competitions fair. Quote, no athlete should have an unfair advantage and no athlete should have to put themselves at risk of harm to participate in the sport they love, Boychenko said in a statement. To Alberta's figure skaters, please know that our government supports your right to compete safely and fairly, even if your national sport organization won't. That is also a lie, because Skates Canada said the decision doesn't prevent Alberta athletes from participating in its programming or competitions. Danielle Smith and the UCP will lie about anything and anyone, clearly. No upcoming national or international events are scheduled to be held in Alberta. The 2025 and 26 Skate Canada Challenge was held in Calgary last month, and the city also hosted the 2024 National Championships. The Fairness and Safety in Sports Act is one of 3 Alberta laws affecting transgender people passed last year by Smith's government. The other laws prohibit doctors from prescribing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to those under 16 and require parental permission for students under 16 to change their names or pronouns at school. The laws polarized debate and sparked legal challenges, prompting the government earlier this month to invoke the Charter's notwithstanding clause on all 3 to prevent them from being overturned in court. Proponents, including Smith, have said the laws protect children and the sports legislation is specifically about making sure girls are not battling opponents with biological advantages. Detractors say the laws are about stigmatizing and punishing those in the transgender community to appease members of Smith's party. Regulations under the Sports Act allow transgender athletes from outside the province to compete in Alberta. Boychenko's ministry has said it doesn't have the authority to regulate athletes from different jurisdictions. Skate Canada says it will reassess its Alberta event ban if circumstances change. The organization's transgender inclusion policy states it's fully committed to providing a safe, welcoming, and respectful environment for all, regardless of actual or perceived differences based on race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, age, language, gender, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, or disability. Skate Canada, very, very, very well done. Hoping that other sports organizations and cultural organizations and business organizations follow the same suit. Artists choosing not to perform in Alberta because of that. Conferences not having their events because of this. The only way we get Danielle Smith to reverse herself, as was the case in North Carolina with their governor that really, really, really was anti-trans, is to make it such that these decisions cost so much to the treasury, either or cost so much to the province in prestige and reputation, is that the pressure starts coming from the inside, that athletes start pressuring the government, that people who want to see Taylor Swift someday perform in Edmonton apply pressure on the government after she comes out and says that she's not going to perform for that really high level conference that's going to bring in $12 million of economic activity into your city doesn't happen anymore, and people start complaining about that. That's the only way. She has to be embarrassed and humiliated, and there needs to be a financial cost to this decision that people can point to. There needs to be opportunities that people are missing out on, and the pressure needs to be applied on her that way. That's how it worked in North Carolina. That's how it will work here. Skate Canada being the first to step up and take a stand. Thank you. I would fully expect Tennis Canada to do the same thing at some point, given how they promote women in sport, and given that the sport has many out players, maybe not transgender, but at least rainbow. Same thing, golf, I would expect that they would be next candidates for this type of thing. Diving, gymnastics, I would expect as well. Skate Canada, this is not surprising because Skate Canada has always been rather progressive. In fact, Skate Canada, in addition, and this is a story that's been out there for a while, but we never had an opportunity to bring it up. But this creates an opportunity. Skates Canada also made it such that it is breaking barriers and challenging gender norms. In April, Skate Canada had announced and this here is a text by Skate Canada itself, but announced an advancement in terms of gender participation and gender equality. Since its inception, figure skating has grappled with gender norms. Originally a male-dominated sport, things began to shift in 1902 when British skater Madge Cyrus became the first woman to compete at the World Figure Skating Championships, earning silver. Her bold move led to the creation of a women's category, proving change is possible. Historically, the sport has reinforced stereotypical ideas of femininity and masculinity. For example, ISU rules have gone back and forth in the last 25 years on when and in which disciplines women can wear pants or leotards. These rules also continue to stipulate men must wear full-length trousers. At various moments in skating history, athletes and sports organizations have challenged these norms, making skating more inclusive. Gender norms in pair dance teams skating have also changed throughout the decades. In the early 1900s, men practiced skating skills patterns in pairs or small groups, with same-gender pairs and dance teams being part of the sport across various decades. Synchronized skating has always defined teams by the number of skaters without reference to gender, and Canada's Star Skate and Adult Skating Pathways removed gender-based definitions of pairs and dance teams in 2019. Here, for example, Kits and Cubs will show you a picture here that may surprise you, but this here is a picture of novice ice dance team Kate Glover Charlotte Stoyles representing Newfoundland and Labrador at the 2025 Skate Canada Trophy. Ice dance team. Same sex. Did you know that was going on? 2022, Skate Canada further removed gender-based restrictions in the pairs and dance podium pathway, becoming the first federation in the world to redefine a team as two skaters. This change sparked conversations across the skating world, challenging current norms and opening doors for creativity and artistic expression. At the Canadian national level, athletes have already begun embracing these inclusive rule changes in real time, with same-gender teams competing at the pre-novice and novice championships. Star athletes across the country also take up opportunities to participate in pairs and dance, not constrained by gender-based barriers. Fast forward to today, Skate Canada is leading the charge, focusing on a skater-first approach where barriers to participation in all skating disciplines are minimized, allowing athletes to be their most authentic selves on the ice. The philosophy is simple: give skaters options and let them and their coaches decide on a model of skating that works best. Momentum grew when Olympic dance ice medalists Gabriela Papadakis and Madison Hubble took the conversation to a mainstream level. The two friends had been training alongside each other for years, with their respective partners dreaming about skating together. We'd say it on the ice, "Oh, I wish I could skate with you," Hubble shared. When they finally got the chance after retiring from competition, it wasn't just about skating, it was about breaking barriers. Papadakis admitted that their partnership revealed gaps in her training. "There was so many things I had never learned but suddenly wished I knew." Their project became bigger than themselves. For me, it was an opportunity to put it out there, give visual representation, start the conversation, and make sure people understand they are welcome in this space, however they want to express themselves on the ice, Hubble said. Their project has elevated Skate Canada's message on a global stage. "Everyone is having fun and learning. That's been our message all along," President Karen Butcher added. That's what skating for everyone is all about. Skating shouldn't be determined by what you're wearing, what you look like, or who you are. Everyone deserves to have a safe and welcoming environment where they can learn to skate and reach their goals. Whether it's forming an all-male synchro team or finally getting the chance to skate with your best friend, every effort towards inclusion matters. We're just honored to be part of this amazing community. If anything we do can make even the smallest amount of difference, we'll do it every day in every way, said Skate Canada CEO Deborah Armstrong. And clearly she meant that when she said that in April, given that decision of yesterday. So as a member of the Rainbow community, thank you so much, Skate Canada, for making this bold move, for taking leadership, for being the first to stand up. You will be drawing brickbats, but you will also be attracting a lot of bouquets for having done what you have done. And we will be reaching out to Skate Canada to see if anybody from the organization wants to come onto the show to talk about this. But this is a move we definitely support. We have to let, in whatever way we can, governments know that treating our fundamental, allegedly inalienable human rights, rights that we've agreed to protect by signature on international treaties, that these must be respected. They are not bargaining chips. Transgender children are not political bargaining chips. It should not be treated as such. It's supposed to be, if you can play, you can play. And the Alberta government is determining, we don't care if you have the ability to play. We've decided you don't get to play. And this is children. They're taking the right to play away from certain children. And for those who still have the right, particularly young girls, they're making it extremely uncomfortable by forcing their parents to sign declarations on paper that, yes, my child is a girl, and leaving it such that anybody could actually challenge that. It's not okay. So again, thank you, Skate Canada, for starting it, and hopefully this is a movement that other sports federations, cultural groups, and business conferences, scientific conferences, and stuff like that will catch on to, and that there will be an ever larger boycott of Alberta for these types of events happening in order to pressure the government to change its ways. The opposite of what Danielle Smith does, popping up to a camera and speaking as if removing fundamental rights was as commonplace and innocuous and pleasant as hey, I brought chocolate chip muffins to the bake sale. Wow, you object that I brought chocolate chip muffins to the bake sale to protect women in sports? Well, I find you disgraceful, and you owe us an apology, and eventually you will change and do the things our way. I hope she is very much proven wrong here, and that she is the one that is forced to climb down. Sports federations, cultural federations, scientific organizations humiliate her and make it hurt financially, make it cost the province. Put an economic number on this decision. Don't go and explicitly go to the cameras and every microphone and say why it is you are not going. And it's because of this policy. Make it hurt. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you today. So, amour et bisous. Love you, and I will see you tomorrow. I did find the other article I wanted to mention, but since we are already over time, I'm going to present it tomorrow for you. Maybe I'll even open with it. It's good stuff. I know, I'm showing a little leg. I'm such a tease. All right, kids and cubs, I am gone. Amour et bisous. Like I said before, be kind, be good to yourselves, and we will see you tomorrow. And now I'm gone. Bye.